Right. It's not easy, though. I'll give you an example. But before I do, let me ask, do you happen to be familiar with Patrick Lancaster?
I've been watching him, yeah.
Okay. So our producer, Tori, has a knack for finding great information out there that maybe we're not otherwise aware of. So he's a Navy veteran who's on the ground in Ukraine.
Yep.
So let me just show you a little something. And this is an example of how you're giving good advice about how we shouldn't believe anything necessarily, but it's difficult. Here's Patrick, a report from Patrick Lancaster talking to elderly or semi-elderly locals in Ukraine, and let's just watch it.
Аж легче стало.
Ужас, что творилось здесь. Ужас. Как мы только пережили это.
Они всем говорили, собирайтесь и уходите. Все.
Как это
А куда уходить?
В квартиру уходить будут.
Вот мы остались, и они тут все бомбили.
У людей на поселках выгоняли с домов и занимали помещения под свои орудия, под свои минометы.
Вы не говорите, это не...
So we can talk over it because they're not speaking in English, but that's just the point. It looks like Ukrainians are blaming Ukrainians for what happened, and we see a translation there. And I assume it's the truth. But not only do we not know what they're saying, we don't even know what language it is. I mean, is it Ukrainian? Is it Russian? And here's a translation coming across the screen there. So it's one thing to be diligent enough to find something like this, but how do you even verify this? We can't instantly decide to learn the language. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. I mean, this is, first of all, it's invaluable journalism that he's doing.
Yeah.
But again, we're viewing it from long distance.
Right.
We don't know if this was a setup. We don't know if his Russian handler said, hey, we're going to have some people coming by here. You go ahead and talk to them. Now, I've watched enough of his broadcasts. He proclaims to be an independent journalist who does his own reporting. And I hope that's true. And I hope that what we just saw there was as fresh as it looked. But
Yeah.
you don't know. We do know, for instance, on the Ukrainian side, they have a what's called the 72nd Information and Public Operations, or it's basically a propaganda unit of the Ukrainian armed forces that works together with the intelligence services, and trained and equipped and guided by the CIA for the sole purpose of putting out propaganda that is designed to hurt Russia. And they're the ones that have been putting out a lot of the things that we've seen: the Ghost of Kiev, the 13 suicidal soldiers on the Snake Island that gave the finger to the boat. Things that didn't happen.
What really amused me about that was the first thing that struck me is that they were quoted as saying, like, fuck off. And so if anything like that happened at all, my assumption is there's probably 50 different ways to translate it. But of course, they picked the most provocative way to do it. And then on top of that, they censored. They did the F * thing.
Right.
But what they're doing is they're making up the quote, and then they're censoring themselves, which is like absurdity on top of absurdity.
Well, apparently the recording was genuine, because again, you don't know, because it could be all. But the one of the survivors, the guy who Ukrainians claim was the voice on the quote, was brought into a senior officer's room, and he was given a medal for his bravery in telling the Russians to stick it in their ear. But the point you're bringing up is a valuable one. It wasn't being packaged for Ukrainian consumption. That story was solely packaged for consumption by the West.
Yeah.
It was built to be consumed by a Western audience. Believe me, in Ukraine, they're using their version of the F word freely. But here, because we have censorship, they had to ... boom, so they can be freely played on the media. They had packaged it to be delivered to the media, and this is the thing that you need to understand. Ukrainians are packaging information to be delivered to the Western media so they can be immediately played on major broadcast networks. Patrick Lancaster's stuff is not packaged that way. It would be very difficult.
He has unedited footage, and it goes on and on for a period of time.
it'd be very difficult to get that on, even if a mainstream media outlet was so inclined. It would be very difficult to get that on, just from a production value standpoint. So